On this channel, we've talked about a lot of different use cases for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But a use case that we've never really talked about would be Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies within the hospitality industry. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin being used for Airbnbs. Stay tuned. Welcome back to this week's episode of the CryptoNoobz Podcast, where we talk about cryptocurrency and the world around it. I'm your host, Nelson Ricardo.x, and I'm here with my co-host,
Lamont Astwood, aka Crypto Lambo.
And on this episode, we're going to be talking about something that's really unique, a Bitcoin Airbnb. So without further ado, we'd like to introduce our guest, Jacob Seifert.
Yeah. Either one will do.
Jake, tell us more about what you do and what is this AirBTC?
AirBTC is a short-term rental platform, and we have properties all over the world, and people can pay in Bitcoin and on the Lightning Network or on chain. And it's a new project. We've been up and rolling for about a year now, and we're hyper focused on building the circular economies around the world. And we have a lot of properties actually in Central and South America.
Dope. That's really dope. My question to you is, how did you first get into Bitcoin? Like, what drew you in?
So I first got into Bitcoin in 2017, and for me, I had my curiosities, and I wanted to know more about digital money, and everyone was talking about self-sovereignty and all these things. And it really caught my attention because I've done some extensive studying on economics, and I've known for a long time that the money is kind of fake, and they can manipulate it and use it to their will. So it really drew me in initially, and I'm here for the freedom aspects mostly of Bitcoin.
Right. Fake money.
Awesome. Yeah. Trust me, as someone who works in finance, I definitely understand what you mean when you say fake money. But Jacob, let me ask you a question. Just something I was a little curious about. What industry did you work in before you started AirBTC? Did you work with the rental property industry prior to, and you just saw where something could be done with it as far as the crypto side, or how did you really get into this? I was a part of the hospitality industry for a long while and still am. And, I had short-term rentals, and I was looking for a way to rent them out for Bitcoin. And there was really nothing really there at the time. There was a couple defunct projects like Crypto Cribs and some other ones that had come and gone. So I was actually searching on the internet and I came across this thing called AirBTC, and it was literally just, it was just one, website with pictures and mirrors on it. It wasn't like there was nothing there, right? So I reached out to the owner, and we got in deep conversations, and eventually we came to an agreement, and we started this thing up for real. And we really built it from the ground up. So it's been quite a journey. My co-founder Andre, he's in South Africa, and we're diligently working to create a better future for everyone.
That's really interesting. And I think it's so cool that you guys saw this concept of Airbnbs, and this time, because of your understanding about money and what money really is, that you decided to focus more on the Bitcoin aspect. Now, I do have a question regarding that. Why only Bitcoin? Why we have lots of other cryptocurrencies? Why not Air Crypto? Or do you take Solana, Ethereum? What would happen?
No, because it's kind of one of those things where if you've been in this industry long enough, you realize that everything else that's not Bitcoin, from the outside, everyone sees crypto all in this one big bucket and pool. And over time, you either get rugged, you lose money, I don't believe in the other coins. I know that there's technology involved, and they're pretty much like companies that are, the classical companies. And yeah, they could eventually, Solana could be as big as Amazon, or, they could be the next Google or something, but at the end of the day, we think that Bitcoin brings freedom to people all across the world, and it enables people to
to, live this life, especially on the Bitcoin standard, to live free and live a sovereign lifestyle. So that's kind of where our base is from.
I do have one follow-up question to that, right? Earlier you spoke about, the circular economy. Could you give us an understanding about what is this circular economy?
So circular economies they can pop up anywhere in the world. I'll give some classic examples like Bitcoin Beach, for example, in El Salvador, where there's many different vendors. So there's someone who's got pupusas or food, fruit. There's a guy who does tires. All these people accept Bitcoin, use Bitcoin day to day. So the circular economy is the fact that there's Bitcoin and it's constantly moving within this economy. And sometimes they're like closed systems, but sometimes they're not, right? And AirBTC actually brings people from the outside into a certain community anywhere in the world, and they can spend sats when they come and stay at our short-term rental, and then they can go out into the world. And, you guys know this as travelers, right? When you go out, you got to go eat. You have to maybe rent a car. You got to get an excursion. Maybe the kids need medicine. All these things, if you can pay for it in Bitcoin, and you're outside of the system, outside of the circular economy, you're bolstering that circular economy with every purchase that you make.
Really interesting.
All right. I like that. Let me ask you this, right? Now, me, Lamont, let's say I decide, okay, I meet a nice young lady. I want to carry her on a nice vacation, right? Can you explain the process of booking, like from start to finish, booking the AirBTC from start to finish using my Bitcoin? Like, can you walk us through how a traveler would actually do it?
Sure. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? You would go and register an account and then find where you want to go visit, right? And that would be to your specifications. You can search for whatever, a 1-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, whatever you'd like. You want to stay in the mountains or by the beach. But the idea is, that somebody can go and book something or try to book it. And you register an account, you make your selections, and then you get an invoice that you can pay for it in Lightning or on chain. And it's very, very simple and seamless process. It's so easy. It takes like less than 3 minutes for any booking. So it's very similar UX UI that the larger players in the game have. We're really proud of what we've built so far.
Oh, nice, nice. And I've been looking at some of the locations. Like I was kind of cyber stalking the page and looking at some of the rooms. Like they look really nice. But can you just tell some of the viewers like what are some of the popular destinations and some of the places you might, since we don't really give financial advice, who you would give travel advice, who you would recommend that they check out?
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool because, when you book something through a traditional booking site, you just get the booking. That's it. But with us, let's just say you want to go to Costa Rica, you book your place at Costa Rica, you pay for it, and we send you a welcome email. And a part of that welcome email is how to travel like a Bitcoiner. So we give you a step-by-step process of like, you should have a hot wallet, and you should, there's a litany of things that information that we give you. We also give you destinations near your stay where to spend Bitcoin, and we try and put you in touch with local groups, which is actually kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, the hot spots right now that are most advantageous is El Salvador, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic. We've got Indonesia, South Africa is booming right now, Colombia, Brazil. It's kind of happening quite quickly. So every day we get more and more listings from all across the world because as a homeowner, if you're a good business person, you're not just going to stay with one booking platform. And, we don't tell people, hey, you have to get rid of Airbnb or get rid of booking.com and just do AirBTC. We tell you, hey, be a good business person. But if you really do like Bitcoin and you think that the future of the world would be better with Bitcoin, or you want to save in Bitcoin and you're a homeowner or hotel owner, it's a good business decision to also include AirBTC as a possible rental. So yeah, I mean, I think that the future is going to be more and more crypto centric, but especially Bitcoin centric, because the more people that are involved, it's like growing as fast as the internet or faster than the internet. So I think we're in a very, very cool place in time. We're actually like on the cutting edge or bleeding edge of this new world that we're going to be a part of.
I think that's incredibly amazing because what I really wanted to know is what was the difference between AirBTC and just a regular Airbnb. And I like how you explained, as you book it, you actually teach people how they could actually get their hot wallet, add Bitcoins to their hot wallet, and then you actually give them like an itinerary so that they could go and find different places to spend. That, I think that crypto as a whole, right? But especially Bitcoin, I think the question that usually hits a lot of people's mind is, where can I spend it? You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people, so as you already know, we educate crypto newbies. Our demographic is more beginners, right? And what a lot of beginners want to know is, where can I actually use my crypto if it is a currency? And I'm not going to lie, if I want to go to Costa Rica, I do want to book a place and what's not, but I also want to go and find some entertainment. I want to go out dancing, I want to get some really good food. And I'm looking to find, okay, I got all this cryptocurrency, but I just don't know where to spend it. And one of the worst things I think for us all inside the crypto space to be encouraging is, we're telling people, hey, this is a new system that is going to be changing the world. But then we're also still going right back to using the plain monetary system. You know, it comes off as if, like, are you really about what you're about? So definitely kudos to you guys, because that's what we want to hear.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you could be a crypto millionaire and you'd still have to go and sell your crypto to go stay somewhere or to book a flight or to go dancing, and especially with these other currencies, right? We talk about, I know you guys are, not just Bitcoiners, but the idea is that when you go to a place like Costa Rica, for example, you have an option to go dance. Nelson, you want to go dance, dude? We got you. We got you covered.
Yeah, man.
I don't think there's a club or a bar in Costa Rica that accepts Solana. I mean, not at the same rate Bitcoin, right? So it is the hardest money. It's the best money on the planet, and we need to use it as money because, at the end of the day, this meme always comes up in the Bitcoin community. It's like, oh, sell your chairs. You don't need chairs. Buy more Bitcoin. No, dude, you need chairs. You need to sit, right?
Yeah, yes, that is something that, you know, just usually comes up because we're using this cryptocurrency. So we really have to be about what we say we are about. So one of the things I remember seeing on your profile was that you were a part of the X Founders Boot Camp, right? I remember that mainly because I follow Diego Borgo.
Mr. Pink Hat.
Mr. Pink Hat. I absolutely love Diego and I follow him a lot. And I know that he's a part of the X Founders group. And I know that it's this kind of an incubator that's inside of El Salvador. Could you expand more about what that is and, like, how did it help you?
Yeah, it was actually a very interesting time. We spent a month together. I spent a lot of time with Diego, and he's, everyone sees him just on LinkedIn and they think he's one thing. But, I think as humans, and we kind of get this, I'm going on a tangent, but as humans, we see a profile of someone or whatever, and it's only what we can perceive of what they put out there. But the idea is that we're all human, right? Like there's a human element to this, and we're stuck on these video calls, and I'm not the only one, right? And you rarely meet people in IRL, and when you get to know them personally, it's just so amazing, right? So I spent a month in El Salvador meeting with some of the most influential people in the space. You have market makers who would come and talk to us, and marketing specialists, brand specialists like our friend Diego. Every day it was just hard work. It's you put in the work, you go to these sessions, and you try and work out the kinks of your startup, because at the end of the day, we want the best for our, the trajectory of our business. So, and like everybody else who's in a startup, you're not good at everything, right? So I always make this analogy, like our company is like a big block of Swiss cheese, right? And when you cut it open, there's holes, right? I may be a good marketer, I may be a good salesperson, but maybe I'm not good at X, Y, or Z. So we need help, right? And this gives people opportunity to really have access to specialists who have been in the space for a really long time and can lead you in the right direction. So X Founders was a very cool time. Got some amazing knowledge, especially from Diego. He was probably one of the most impactful people that I came across when I was in El Salvador for a month. It was also, the X Founders was also filming a reality show. So it's kind of it was a cool process to be a part of. I got to climb up a volcano. I jumped off a bridge. We did some really wild stuff.
Yeah.
You okay?
Hey, I'm here, baby.
I actually want to dig into that a bit. Earlier, you talked about how, you're as a startup, we're basically like Swiss cheese, meaning that we have a lot of holes, a lot of blind spots within our businesses or what's not. Would you mind telling us, like, what are some of the blind spots that you would have actually found out about your business that you now have improved on?
Yeah, definitely brand, like what brand means and how to build like a following. How to, there's many facets of the business that we still have some lacking in. Marketing is one of those, it's another hard push for us because, at the end of the day, the consumer, the younger generation especially, they consume everything on social media, right? So we have to have a really big social media presence, and we have to be very clear about what the brand is. And, in the crypto space, there's been so many rug pulls, there's been so much shit over the years where people have been screwed out of their money. We want to bring trust back to this world that we live in. And, we're trying to put a face with the name. And that's why I'm out there going, speaking at different conferences and getting to know people in the industry, because trust is a really big factor. But yeah, I mean, being a part of X Founders was kind of eye-opening because I guess in the beginning, I wasn't really aware of how many holes there were. I knew we had holes, but at the end of the day, when you're around people who ask the right questions, it can really open up your eyes to what you're missing.
Yeah, that's a
definitely.
serious thing.
Yeah. Because me and Nelson, we had plenty of conversations where it's like when you have conversations with people and it's like, oh wow, they're talking about something I had no clue about, I don't know about, something I have to learn now. It's just so funny, like how networking and meeting different people is so important for you, not even just growing your network, but expanding your growth. I mean, your thoughts and your growth patterns, your thought patterns, stuff like that. All that is important. But you mentioned earlier when you was talking about different bars accepting Bitcoin, right? How it's increasing inside El Salvador. I want to ask you this question. Where do you see AirBTC in like a 5-year period, or just you could just break it up into like short term, long term, or intermediate or long term like that? You don't have to do specifically years. But
Yeah, so I see our company gradually growing, and over this past year that I've seen, I guess that's how I can base these assumptions. And at the end of the day, everything is an assumption. You kind of have to you have to blindly go in a direction that you think the future will hold and best suit you. But for us, short term, we're going to be attaching ourselves to different events all around the world that have to do with Bitcoin, and partner up with those conference producers and try and get as many bookings as we can from that. We also see the circular economies as they pop up. We think it's a big part of this whole understanding of what Bitcoin is, because for many years Bitcoin has been known as a store of value and people don't really see it as money. But if we go back to the white paper and read it, it actually says in there it's a peer-to-peer cash system, right? And it should be used as such. So we're giving people an opportunity to learn through education. We have an education partner, Mi Primera Bitcoin. And in El Salvador, we have, in each one of our units in El Salvador, we have a book that is it's like a mini book that Mi Primera Bitcoin gives out. It's the same material that they have for their program. So people can buy it. They can read it while they're there and understand more about what Bitcoin is and why we're even here and doing this. But yeah, I mean, short term, we're going to be going with the events. Long term, we have different verticals, because the first vertical is the short-term rentals, but the longer term looks like we would attach ourselves to excursions, concierge services, car rentals, and then eventually real estate sales. Because we think that when Bitcoin does climb and reach the new all-time highs, which will always happen and continue to happen over time, 10 years from now, let's just say, or by 2030, let's pretend like Bitcoin is $1 million, right? A lot of people are going to have ridden that wave and now see an opportunity to, hey, I want to live in a house somewhere in the middle of Costa Rica or El Salvador or wherever. I'd love to spend my Bitcoin, because the idea is that if they've held that long, they would have to go sell it on Coinbase, incur all those fees, or you can cut out the middleman and go direct to the source and buy your real estate with Bitcoin. So we think there is a market for real estate sales in the future. And I think it would be very specific to different locations around the world that are more accepting of A, Bitcoiners, and B, Bitcoin.
I like that. I laughed in the middle of you explaining it, because when you said you were gonna have the book in the booking rooms, that remind me of like how the motels put the Bibles inside there. So that's why I laughed a little bit, because it reminded me of that, you see? But
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Bitcoiners or people in crypto, it's from the outside, people say that we're in a cult, right?
Yeah, that's I got that a lot.
It is what it is.
I'm gonna get my orange robe soon, so don't worry about that.
You're gonna be wearing with the large B on it. So I mean, since you brought up the really good point of you guys are trying to expand into excursions, other hotels, real estate, and all these things, when are you gonna come to the Bahamas? Like huge.
Well, I'll be honest with you, man. I was in the Bahamas in August, and I was looking for places to spend my Bitcoin, and I couldn't find not one. And I've been making cold calls to different hotels and business owners. So, maybe this is just my perception of what Bitcoin or crypto in the eyes of Bahamians has become, maybe after FTX. I think it kind of turned back the clock a little, because the Bahamas were on a trajectory that was like on a rocket ship, right? Yeah. They were doing things that was amazing with the banking industry and all that. And then FTX happened, and it's like, oh my God, right? And you hear all the stories about what he was doing in that condo, and it's like, Jesus. But if there's anybody listening in the Bahamas, we would love to have some properties down there, because there is a need. The tourism industry in the Bahamas is like the number one industry, right? It's a beautiful place on this planet with amazing weather, amazing people, and the vibes are high. I love going to all up and down Cable Beach, and it's just a beautiful place.
See, so we are currently working on it. So there is a niche market in the Bahamas. Well, not a niche market, but there are a good bit of Bahamians who are actually into crypto. They have a good bit of money inside of crypto. They invest in what's not. The only thing is that trying to spread the word to the rest of the country after the FTX situation definitely did turn the clock back a bit. But it's like, this is the reason why Lamont and I, we go so hard with the education and basically just sharing the knowledge, because, a lot of people now see it as something not to be trusted. A lot of trust was lost, because of that situation. So this is why we actually go so hard in doing it. But one of the things that I will definitely say is that we do have Bahamians who they have their real estate, they have their Airbnbs, who would be interested inside like alternative means of, accepting Bitcoin. Now, that is something that I think that some Bahamians would be interested in. I think that I've actually seen where someone actually bought a house with Bitcoin inside of one of my various circles. So there is that opportunity. It's just that we just have to get more and more people on board for them to actually see what is possible.
Yeah, it starts with just like in Bitcoin, right? You have to get off of zero, right? So we have to start somewhere. And I think if we get one person to want to be involved, then he's going to tell his friends. We're going to get 2, and then 10, and then 100. But I'm an OG. I've been going to the Bahamas for a long time. I was there before the straw market burned down. I was there when the zoo burnt down right before I came, like 2003, 2004. I love the Bahamas. So it would make me so happy to have an opportunity to market the Bahamas, through AirBTC. It would really, it would bring joy to my heart.
Yeah, definitely.
You come back. We gotta catch up. All of us, we gotta hang out.
Definitely. So one of the things that I also want to understand, right? So in building AirBTC, this is something that's very different. And I could really see this expanding as more and more people come on board. I do see the crypto market by 2030, it's just going to hugely increase. But what has been the biggest challenge to building AirBTC thus far?
Yeah, I think a lot of people on the outside would think it's like a technical thing or APIs or UX, UI, backend stuff. But the reality of the matter is the biggest hurdle that we've encountered is people not wanting to spend their Bitcoin because they've been lied to by people like Michael Saylor that think it's only a savings technology. But like I was saying earlier, it's a peer-to-peer cash system, and we should use it as cash. It's the best money on the planet, right? And it was a gift from Satoshi, so we should be using it as money, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't store your wealth in Bitcoin. You should, but just like anything else, you save and you spend, right? And then you replace those sats because you've got a job or you've got a source of income. So spend and replace is a big, I'm a very big advocate of this. So I would say that that's probably our biggest hurdle that we've encountered. The community absolutely loves us and is behind us, but at the end of the day, hugs and kisses don't pay the bills, right? So we need people to actually utilize Bitcoin as it was intended, and more people are doing that now more than ever, and we're going to see more and more of that over time because Bitcoin really, it helps with so many things, so many aspects that we don't even really think about in our day-to-day lives. But let's think about Europeans, for example, or people from Russia or wherever they're at in the world. When they travel, they have to exchange their money for whatever the local currency is, and then they get taxed on that through a third party or bank transfers, foreign exchange fees, credit card fees. We actually eliminate a lot of that. So for us, it's a big differentiator between Airbnb as well, because Airbnb charges both sides of the transaction. So the buyer pays 3 to 7%, and the owner or host of the property, they pay they get taxed about 15% from Airbnb. So when we think about it, it's over 20, maybe sometimes 25, 28% of the total transaction fee is lost to a third party, which we think that's theft, right? So we're here to give the homeowners more opportunity to make more money and also have better guests in their house. So I say this all the time. In Bitcoin, we may be different colors, we may be different creeds, maybe come from different backgrounds or religions or whatever, but we have this one common thread that makes us want to be a better human. I don't know about you guys, but when I got into Bitcoin, as soon as I realized, we're fixing the money, you also want to fix yourself. You want to live long enough you want to live a better life, right? You want to be a better human, and that comes with time. So I would say, we're bringing better people into these homes and hotels, and we're making a connection in this digital world that we live in. We get back to IRL and really get to know people on a man-to-man level.
It's very true. I really like that because a part of our community, we actually have someone who's super pure breed Bitcoiner. Absolutely. Positively diehard Bitcoiner.
Yeah, y'all two actually sound like y'all. The way y'all don't believe in anything else but Bitcoin. Everything else is.
And mind you, so both Lamont and I, we believe in cryptocurrency as a whole, right? But definitely we do also believe in Bitcoin. And just like our other community member, I love how you talked about how Bitcoin should be used as actual money, because I'm gonna keep it real. I'll keep it real. With Bitcoin, how we've been perceiving it, it has been like, hey, save in Bitcoin, wait till it gets to 1 million, and then maybe we could talk about spending it like money, or maybe transacting it, turning it back into dollars so it's not. That's been the conversation. So I think, and I could speak for myself, I hate spending my Bitcoin. I personally hate spending my Bitcoin. But I like how you actually reminded us that, this is an actual currency that you need to be spending. And until we actually get to spending it, it's just going to be like just a store of value rather than an actual currency. And I guess what I would ask you is like, do you still think people should spend it, despite the fact that we see it as digital gold? We see it as something that is a long-term investment. And if you were to tell me that an asset that I own is going to hit $1 million, and currently it's about around how much? 100K, right around this time, like
Yeah. Who's
110.
counting?
But who's got it, right? But if you were to tell me an asset that I own is going to hit 10 times its value in the next probably 5 years, that's better than the stock market. Like, I wouldn't want to spend that asset. But tell me your thoughts given that information.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way, tomorrow is not a given, right? We may perceive that we're going to live this long life and enjoy that $1 million Bitcoin 5 years from now, but who's to say it's all going to be taken away from us? So I think we need to live in the moment, right? More. And this also, I know this brings up a whole nother can of worms, but like the idea is that this gentleman, and everyone talks about Laszlo, the guy who bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin, right? You guys know this story. He's a guy in Jacksonville Beach, and Satoshi, the reason why he spent those 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas is because Satoshi emailed him and said, hey, listen, you've been mining too many blocks. And he had like the latest mining equipment, and Satoshi emailed him. And he's like, dude, you have to distribute these Bitcoin. So I would say if that transaction never happened, we probably wouldn't even be here talking about it. Because if we can't use it in between peer to peer, if we can't do that, then how could it be worth anything? Right? The only reason why anything has worth is because someone's else willing to buy it, right? Like there could be a house in the Bahamas for sale for $100 million, but if there's not a buyer for $100 million, is the house really worth $100 million? Right? So at the end of the day, I always go back to this, man. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, and I would rather 5 years from now go, hey, I went on this vacation, I did this, I did that. Not saying spend all your Bitcoin, save the majority of your Bitcoin, but you should also be spending it because you're also creating value. Every time you spend it and give it to somebody else, it gains more value, right? So we're going to get to $1 million a lot quicker if people use it as money because more people will adopt it, right? And that's why I'm kind of a hater on Michael Saylor and the people that are big proponents of it's only a store of value. Don't spend your Bitcoin. Don't be an idiot. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. We need to get Bitcoin in as many hands as possible. And that's why I think that this circular economy thing makes so much sense because the everyday average person needs Bitcoin way more than people with all the money, right? There's 67 million millionaires in the world, right? I mean, dude, if all of them wanted one Bitcoin, they couldn't have it. There's only 21 million Bitcoin, right? So we need to distribute it as fast as we can amongst the people, or we're going to have to build a big old citadel and have to fight off everybody who's going to try and scale the wall. I don't want that. I don't want that future. I want everyone to live. I want society to continue. And the only way I see that happening is if more people own Bitcoin.
It's a very fair answer. But that would be the actual end of today's podcast. So I would want to know, what are some final words that you would actually tell the audience about you and AirBTC and what you guys are building?
I would first say thank you so much, guys, for having me on, because I think what you're doing is admirable. And I think in the future, people are going to look back at these moments and you guys and many people in the industry and go, oh, these were thought leaders. These people were the head of their time and they saw what the future would look like and they're building it for us, right? And I think that's really why AirBTC exists. And that's why I'm here, is because I want the next generation to prosper from what we're doing today, because I'm thinking about them. I'm thinking about my kids. I'm thinking about their kids and what the future will hold. And Bitcoin is sovereignty, right? So, and we think like Airbnb has a certain place in most people's hearts when they think about travel, but AirBTC is the future, and everyone should be leaning towards futuristic thoughts of what the future will look like and what future we want to build, right? So I would encourage everybody to go on airbtc.online and register an account. We're going to send offers to you directly for deals and specials, and you'll get to know the progress and see everything firsthand with us. And, I would encourage everyone to spend Bitcoin, save it, spend it, replace it, and continue to live life, man. You got to eat. You have to go on vacations. You don't want to be an old geezer like, oh, I've got $20 million now. No, dude, you're not gonna, what? You've been working your job your whole life. You've been saving all this Bitcoin, and now what? You look back and you've been at a computer at a desk all day. No, get out, go have fun, go on a trip, go dancing, because we only have one life and it's not guaranteed.
And where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, AirBTC Online is our X account. We're on Instagram, AirBTC Online. We're on Nostr. I would encourage a lot of people to use Nostr. It's a decentralized social media platform that's it's the bleeding edge of technology. It's right now it's being used as a social media, but in the future, the protocol will be able to have decentralized medical records. And so I could talk for an hour about Nostr, but yeah, check us out on Nostr, Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, I appreciate you guys so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jacob. Really appreciate it. To our audience, once again, Jacob Seifert, right?
Yeah.
Jacob Seifert, AirBTC. We would recommend that you guys go and check it out. Check out their socials, follow, like, share, and you know what to do. And once again, thank you so much for a great episode. You guys have a great night.